So we know that exercise is good for us, right? Right. So now the next step is to answer the question, how much should I be working out? The simple answer is to pretty much as you can. Once again, there are some nuances to this, but in general, the vast majority of Americans are not meeting the general physical activity guidelines. So the worry about working out too much applies to such a small fraction of a percent of people that it doesn't apply to the general public. The general recommendations by a few large health societies state that adults should get at least 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes of vigorous physical activity per week. And you should also include at least 2 days of resistance training on top of that. Now that we have that incredibly confusing and largely not helpful definition out of the way, let's talk about what that really means. In general, to determine your physical activity level, we can do something called the talk test, which is where you try to talk while working out. For moderate activity, you should be able to talk, but you shouldn't be able to sing while you work out. So if you can talk, but you can't sing, that's generally a moderate physical activity. Things that will meet these recommendations include a brisk walk around 3 miles an hour, water aerobics, doubles tennis, even general gardening. So essentially, if you get your heart rate elevated even just a little bit, that's probably going to count as moderate activity. On the other hand, we have vigorous physical activity. And if you're doing the talk test, you're not going to be able to talk really at all here. You might be able to say a few words, and that's about it. Activities for this include running, swimming laps, jumping rope, or like vigorous hiking, things like that. It's also worth mentioning that you can estimate your activity level based on the percentage of your maximum heart rate. Let's take a step back for a second and talk about what maximum heart rate is. As we age, the maximum speed at which our heart can pump tends to go down. So when you are 60, your maximum heart rate will not be as fast as it was when you were 20. Because of this fact, we can estimate our maximum heart rate by taking our age and subtracting it from 220. So, for example, if you were a 40-year-old athlete, then your approximate maximum heart rate would be about 180, 220 minus 40. So now that we can figure out our own maximum heart rate, we can then use this number to find a percentage range where we should exercise at to meet our desired physical exertion level. Moderate physical activity will sit between 65 and about 75% of your max heart rate, and vigorous intensity will be about between 77 and 93. Some people like wearing heart rate monitors or smartwatches or whatever. Some people will check it manually, but all those tools can be used to then track your heart rate and thus your exertion levels. So all that covers the aerobic recommendations, but we aren't done yet with the recommendations as we need to talk about resistance training. The general recommendation talk about at least 2 days per week of full body resistance training, and they're honestly super vague about what constitutes as resistance training. Activities like bodyweight exercises can count, so it can resistance bands, dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, and really anything that provides some type of resistance. They recommend performing exercises that work all major muscle groups, and once again, that's very vague. However, what the governing bodies are clearly recommending is that you shouldn't skip leg day. In fact, you're doing your country a disservice if you skip leg day. How's that for a guilt trip? But seriously, don't do it. Don't skip your leg day. If after hearing all this, you're just feeling so overwhelmed and you're saying, Jordan, there's no way that I have time for that, then I'll say, just start doing something. It is incredible how many benefits we can get from even just a little bit of exercise. So even if you have 5 minutes per day, start there. The overall recommendations I want you to take home is that I just want you to start exercising. And if you're already exercising, make sure you're hitting the minimum recommendations. And then if you're meeting those minimum recommendations, try to increase from there as much as you can, because the benefits really just keep stacking up. I know it sounds demanding, but I just want to get my point across that exercise and movement are non-negotiables for me, and I'm truly so passionate about their benefits.